Welcome to the video on converting decimals to percents and percents to decimals. If you are in Math 6, you can watch half of this video today and the other half tomorrow, or you can watch the whole thing today. If you are in Advanced Math 6, you are going to watch this whole video in its entirety today. So at the end of today's lesson, or at the end of this first part of the video, you should be able to say, I will be able to convert decimals to percents by moving the decimal two places, that should be TWO, two places to the right. I will also have an understanding that doing this is the same thing as multiplying the decimal by 100. Alright, so I'm going to convert decimals to percents. Notice I have these letters lined up, FDP, for fraction decimal percent. And then you'll see the two little swoops here, 1, 2. So wherever the decimal is in the problem, if I'm going from a decimal to a percent, I move two places to the right. So notice if I'm reading this, I go FDP, so I'm moving the decimal towards the P, so to the right, and I'm moving it two places. So regardless of where the decimal is, move it two places to the right and add the percent sign. Okay, so we're going to move the decimal two places to the right and add the percent sign. Now we have to move it two places to the right no matter what. So let's go ahead and take a look at some examples here. Alright, let's look at the first one, 4. So I'm going to write it down here for demonstration purposes so that it doesn't interfere with where the equal sign is. I'm going to move it 1, 2. So here's where my percent sign would be. But I have nothing in this empty space there, so I'm going to fill it in with a 0. So 0.4 or 4/10 is the same thing as 40%. Okay, let's look at the next one where I have 1.4. Again, I'm going to move it two places to the right. So I'm going to fill in that space with a 0. So I have 140%. Let's look at the next one. I have 12.4. So I'm going to move it 1, 2, fill in the space with a 0. So I have 1240. So I have 1,240%. Okay? So notice that no matter what, I've moved the decimal two places to the right. Now let's go ahead and look at the next one. The next one, I'm not going to rewrite the problem because I have enough room to move the decimal two places. So I'm going to move it 1, 2, and I end up with 2%. All right, I'm going to move this one two places, and I end up with 52%. I'm going to move the next one two places, and I end up with 375%. I'm going to move the next one two places, and I end up with 0.5%, or 0.5%. So I don't even have one whole percent. So I'm going to move the next one two places, and I end up with 0. Let me rewrite that. Nope, I'm doing it again. I end up with 3.6%. And I don't need these zeros out in front because it would be silly to put zeros out in front like that. That would have no meaning. So let's go ahead and do the next one. I move it 1, 2 places, and I end up with 12.5%. Let's look at the next one. I'm going to move it 1, 2 places, and I end up at 525.2, and 0.2%. And then the next one's kind of special. Notice I don't have a decimal in the answer. So where does the decimal go? Does it go before the number? Does it go after the number? Well, what we need to ask ourselves is 4. What are we talking about here? We're talking about 4 wholes. So to make it wholes, the decimal would have to go after the number. So I'm going to write 4 here, put my decimal, and then I'm going to move it two places. And I'm going to add zeros in those spaces where there's nothing. So it's 400%. So 4 wholes is the same thing as having 400%. If you need to, go ahead and pause the video here. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next page. So it says this is your extra practice. Now, if you did not pause the video to work out any of those last problems on your own, then what I want you to do is go ahead and take just a couple minutes and do a few of these problems on this page. Now, you don't have to do them all. I just want you to do a few until you're comfortable, and then go ahead and unpause the video. In a moment, I'm going to advance to the next screen, and when I do, you're going to get the answers there. So go ahead and pause the video now, and then do a few of these problems, and then check your work. Okay, so here are the answers to what was on the last page. What I encourage you to do is go ahead and pause the video here, check over your work. Now, if you are in Math 6 and you're only doing today's homework, you can go ahead and stop the video. If you're in Advanced Math 6, or if you're in Math 6 and you would like to continue on with the video, go ahead and continue it. This is a requirement for Advanced Math 6. So Math 6 can stop it here, or continue on to watch the rest of it, which is tomorrow's homework. Or, if you're in Advanced Math 6, you must complete this whole video in its entirety. Alright, so your learning target. I will be able to convert a percent to a decimal by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. I will also know that this is the same thing as dividing by 100. So now notice I wrote my FDP again, my fraction decimal percent. This time, notice we're starting over here at the P, and we're moving this way in our FDP, so we're going to move our decimal 2 places to the left. So to get from a P to a D, I've got to move to my left. So regardless of where the decimal is, move it 2 places to the left and take away the percent sign. Okay? So we're going to move it 2 places to the left this time, and we're going to take away the percent sign. So I'm going to go ahead and put a decimal at the end of this number, okay? Because I have 48%. That's 48. That's a whole number. So the decimal is always at the end of a whole number if there's not one in the problem. And I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. And I would end up with 0.48, or 48 hundredths. Okay, now let's look at the next one, 48.6%, or 48 6/10%. I'm going to move it 2 places to the left, and I'm going to have 0.486. Okay, so after you move the decimal, this is what your problems would look like. But what you need to do is you need to add that 0 out in front of the decimal, because that's the proper way to write a problem with a decimal if there's no number in front of it. All right, the next one, we're going to move it 2 places to the left. So I would have decimal 0.486. In this space where there's no number there, I would put a 0. All right, and then I just need to make sure I add a 0 out in front of my decimal. So I have 0.0486. All right, the next one, I'm going to move it, again, 2 places to the left. And when there's nothing there, I'm going to put in a 0. So I end up with a decimal 0.48. Okay? And I'm going to just make sure I put that another 0 out in front. The next one, I'm going to move it 2 places again. Put a 0 out in front, so 0.0048. So I have 0.0048. The next one, again, there's no decimal, just like in the first example. So I need to put one at the end, and I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. So I have 4.80. Now I can write this problem 2 ways. I can write 4.8 and just get rid of the 0 at the end, because if it's after a decimal and there's a 0 on the end, we can drop it. Or I can write 4.80. I wouldn't mark you down for writing that one either way. And what I would encourage you to do in both these sets is, in the first set, get out a calculator, multiply each of them by 100 and verify that you got the right answer. And in each of these, get out a calculator, divide 48 divided by 100, 4.88 divided by 100, 48.6 divided by 100, and see if you get to the correct answers. It would make sense that if we're multiplying in the first part of the video, that your answers would get bigger. And if we're dividing or moving it to the left, then our answers are going to get smaller, okay? All right, now I'm going to go ahead and go to some extra practice problems. If you're still writing this, please pause the video here. All right, so here's extra practice. What I would encourage you to do is go ahead and do a couple of these. Remember, we are moving the decimal to the left because we are taking these from a percent to a decimal. Go ahead and pause the video here, do a couple of these until you feel comfortable, and then when you're ready, go ahead and click play and I will show the answers. And here are the answers to the problem. So I hope that you did practice a few, and I hope that all of this makes sense to you. If it does not, please just rewind the video and re-watch that part that you didn't understand, and then go back to these practice problems.